What's up everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Yeti Finance, a new DeFi protocol that really has the potential to make waves in decentralized finance. At its core, Yeti is a collateralized lending protocol, but it's bringing a lot of new innovations to this space, which means that there are a lot of different ways that you can make money using Yeti. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview on Yeti Finance, and I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that you can make money using this protocol. I'm also going to go over some of the key things that you need to be aware of in order to avoid your positions being liquidated. If you're interested in learning more about DeFi and yield farming opportunities while avoiding hype and scam-driven projects, then this channel is for you. Hit that subscribe button because I've got a lot of great content coming out that you don't want to miss. So what is Yeti Finance? Yeti Finance is a new DeFi protocol that lets you borrow at up to 11 times leverage against your crypto portfolio. And it lets you do this at 0% interest. So basically, the way that Yeti works is that you first deposit your assets into what's called a trove. This is basically your portfolio of assets that you are using for collateral. Yeti is starting with a set list of assets, but they do say that they are planning on expanding these assets drastically in the future. Yeti's core function is that you are able to borrow YUSD, their native stablecoin, against the value of the assets in your trove. If everything is working well, these stablecoins will always be equal to $1. You'll then be able to sell those Yeti stablecoins like you would any other stablecoin on a crypto exchange. Yeti is most often compared to Abracadabra, which uses a similar stablecoin minting mechanism, but there are some key differences. First up, you can use a lot more leverage. You can go up to 11 times leverage using Yeti, whereas Abracadabra only gives you 5x leverage. Second, you can borrow against your entire portfolio, whereas Abracadabra only lets you borrow against specific assets. Yeti's main reason for doing this is that if you put all of your assets into your Yeti trove, if one has a wild swing in price, the other assets maintaining their price will prevent you from being liquidated. Basically, it allows you to diversify your collateral so you're less prone to liquidations because of the volatility of one specific asset. One other cool thing about Yeti is that the borrowing is actually interest-free. You do pay a fee upon depositing your assets into a trove, but as a borrower, that's the only fee that you really have to worry about, other than liquidations. And the other difference between Abracadabra is that Yeti Finance uses a very different stablecoin peg mechanism, which is actually pretty interesting. I'm going to be putting out another video soon on how Yeti actually works under the hood, so if you're interested in that, hit subscribe. But for now, we want to find out how we can actually make money using this new protocol, so let's get into it. The first method to make money using Yeti Finance is looping. So here I am in Yeti's user interface in the borrow section. And I've just created a trove to add some collateral to. The cool thing about Yeti is they actually let you use yield-bearing collateral in their troves. So as you can see, we have 3 types of yield-bearing collateral here: Chi USDC, AVAX, and USDC LP pool from Trader Joe, and the curve pool with TriAve. The process of looping involves depositing a yield-bearing asset into a trove and then borrowing YUSDC using that asset as collateral. You can then sell that YUSDC for more of the asset, redeposit it, and repeat the cycle. This basically leverages your exposure to that yield-bearing asset and increases the yield directly with the leverage that you take on. In the future, Yeti is planning on adding a leverage button which would do this looping process for you. For yield-bearing stablecoins like Chi USDC, and later when Yeti plans on adding Anchor UST, you can use a very high amount of leverage because your collateral and what you're borrowing should stay stable in terms of their price. When you are borrowing collateral that has more price volatility, it is important to keep in mind your collateral ratio, because if this gets too low, you could get liquidated. Speaking of liquidations, there's one very important thing to know when you're using leverage on Yeti Finance. When the protocol has a collateral ratio of over 150% as a whole across all participants, then you will get liquidated personally if your collateral ratio falls below 110%. But if the collateral ratio across all participants falls below 150%, then users' troves will start to get liquidated, starting with the least collateralized. And these liquidations will keep happening until the overall protocol collateral ratio is back above 150%. This is called recovery mode. And it means that if your collateralization ratio is around 140%, you can still get liquidated in recovery mode. The only way to prevent this is to make sure that your collateralization ratio is above 150% at all times. And in reality, it should be much higher. One scenario that I can see occurring is a general crash in the crypto market will cause everyone's collateral ratios to drop, which would put Yeti into recovery mode and start liquidating those positions under 150%, which yours might now be because your collateral dropped with the general crypto market. So as you can see, it's very important to be aware of this and to make sure that you're staying within safe limits. So now that we've gotten that very important message out of the way, let's move on to the number 2 way to make money. So the second way that you can make money on Yeti Finance is to participate in their stability pool. The way to do this is simply to borrow the Yeti stablecoin against the collateral in your Trove and then deposit that into the pool. The earnings from the pool are coming from 2 main sources. The first source is that you are the recipient of money from liquidations. When users get liquidated, they're getting liquidated at anywhere from 110% collateral to 150% in recovery mode, which means that the protocol is actually getting an extra 10% up to 50% on those liquidations. That difference is distributed to participants in the stability pool. The second way that you're making money from the stability pool is in the form of the Yeti token rewards. As an incentive for participating in the pool, Yeti is distributing their native token to participants. The main risk with participating in the stability pool is that the Yeti stablecoin might depeg from the US dollar. This is actually a very serious risk just because stablecoins have a long history of struggling to maintain their peg, and Yeti has created some new innovations in maintaining the peg, which are really cool but also untested. So of course there's risk in that. And so finally, on to method number 3 for making money using Yeti Finance. The second way to make money using Yeti is to participate in their Curve stablecoin pool. To do this, all you have to do is go to curve.fi and then make sure you select the Avalanche network. Scroll down and you should see the YUSD pool, which amazingly, less than 24 hours after launch, already has the second most liquidity on all of Curve for Avalanche. Click on that pool, and then in the top right, go to the deposit section. Here you can deposit any of the 3 stablecoins that the Curve pool accepts, which are currently YUSD, USDC, and USDT. Simply add however much of each coin you want, and then hit deposit. Once you deposit into the Curve pool, come back to Yeti Finance's website and click on the Farm tab. Then you can scroll down to a section where you can stake your Curve LP tokens. As you can see, the current reward APR is 62%, which is really incredible for stablecoin. I currently have around $6,000 worth of Curve LP tokens staked, which means I'm getting around 75 Yeti per week. In order to claim your rewards, just hit View Rewards and then you can hit Claim here. So with the Yeti rewards you get from the stability pool or the Curve pool, one option is to sell them, but if you want, you can also stake your Yeti tokens. On Yeti's website, go ahead and click on the VE Yeti tab, and here's where you can stake those tokens. Currently, VE Yeti doesn't have any utility attached to it, but they're planning on adding this utility a few weeks after launch. According to a recent blog post by Yeti, the VE Yeti can be used for 3 things. You'll be able to boost Yeti rewards on the stability pool or in the Curve pool, and you'll be able to reduce your fees when you're depositing assets. It's important to note that when you unstake Yeti, you'll lose your VYeti balance. There are also some benefits for VYeti that we may see in the future, such as allowing you to participate in some of their more high demand strategies like the Anchor UST looping. While I don't have any strong opinions on whether or not you should stake your Yeti or sell it, I probably will be staking mine at least until the Anchor UST strategy comes out, because I feel like that strategy could drive a lot of attention to the protocol, and it would be useful to have VE Yeti so that I can participate in it myself. Before participating in any of this, it's also important that you understand there is smart contract risk, especially because this is a brand new protocol. There could be ways to exploit this protocol that no one has thought of yet. So when you put money in, just know that this is a risk that you are accepting. As always, do your own research, make your own decision, and I'll see you in the next video.